All right.
Welcome to Real People. I'm Stephanie Allensworth. We're back with Betty Jo Arnett again today to talk about the recent evaluation that I had with your lovely machine. And I forgot what the name of that machine is. Would you like to tell us?
It's called electrodermal screening.
Okay, yeah, electrodermal screening.
Correct.
Now, I went through that test with you, and I've got like a whole chart of really fun things that it came up with.
Right.
That after a little time of going through them, I could push every button. I understood every single one. Could you tell us a little bit about how that machine works?
Well, the machine detects the electrical current within you, and all substances have a frequency. And so there's like over 70,000 signals in there. Everything from vitamins and minerals and amino acids and homeopathic remedies, parasites, viruses, all of that's in there. I first learned about this machine when I was in dentistry, because when I was at Dr. King's office, we used to, if we were going to replace amalgam fillings and retreat them, then we wanted to make sure that the material that we're going to put in the person's mouth was compatible with them. And they could do that either through a blood test or kinesiology or doing electrodermal screening. And when I first got trained, I thought that's what I was going to be doing, is primarily just testing for compatibility on dental materials and vitamins and minerals and things like that. And then when I started working, I went to Chicago for 3 days to get trained, and I realized that the software had homeopathic remedies in there, and it was unbelievable, you know, when I actually had a chance to look at the software. So now I use it in my homeopathic practice to help me identify what's going on within the person, and we do test the ends of the acupuncture channels on the hands, the fingers, and on the feet. And then I look for the meridians where there's either a weakness or there's a stressor, and then I go in and I can test for what is on that meridian, like we'll see what comes up.
Yeah.
What I love about the machine is, as a homeopath, it takes away my prejudice. So, you know, I used to sit with my books and I would listen to your story, and then I would try and match it to, through our repertory, match it up with your story, up with a remedy to give you. The machine does that automatically for me.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And some of the things that it came up with, like basically what you're saying is you start high and then you can drill down, you know, so you can get a little closer to pinpointing. And some of these things, we didn't know if they were a remedy that I needed or if it was something that I was already doing or was just showing up.
Or it would correct what the imbalance was. And that's the one thing that I don't really have anybody to consult with, because homeopaths don't use this. It's primarily used by naturopaths and chiropractors, and so they see it differently when things come up. So let's say, for example, some of the things that came up for you, it's like if the naturopath looked at it, it might mean that you needed that thing to help balance, or you were getting too much of it. I see it as, and especially if there's a homeopathic remedy that's made out of that substance, that is the remedy that's going to correct the imbalance, not only your physical body, but how you think and compute, and then your emotional body. So I see it very differently.
Yeah.
And, you know, many different things will come up, like right away, that will kind of send me down the rabbit hole. And you kind of experience that, is that all of a sudden something comes up and you're saying, okay. And then I have to see, is there a thread that either you identify with, or it goes back through your family, or you're maybe living with someone that has that come up. Many times vaccinations will come up, and then I can go into that folder and I can pull up a specific vaccine or vaccination that will come up. And then it's like, okay, did you have that vaccine? do you live with someone that maybe had that vaccine? Let's say, for example, if your spouse was in the military, many times, even though you weren't in the military, the vaccines that are given to them may come up.
Okay.
You know, when I'm testing. And so then it's a question of were you exposed to it through the shedding, that kind of thing. Once in a while, I'll find, like, say, for example, people that have pets, and they've just taken their pet to the veterinarian, and they've had the rabies shots, and all of a sudden, rabies will come up for them. Or worms will come up that they can identify that, you know, their pet goes outside, they have a lot of rabbits in their yard, and they're in rabbit droppings, and then the parasite that's in the rabbit dropping will come up. And so then it's about deciding, okay, are we going to use that information? Or are we going to try and zero in to something else that comes up?
Yeah, maybe it's a, you know, what am I trying to say? A pathway to something else.
Right,
You know,
right.
it might not be that specifically, but it's a clue. You know, it's like you're playing Clue.
Right. And in your case, I think the meridians were pretty balanced. There's a scale from 1 to 100, and 45 to 55 is considered the balance zone, and pretty much everything for you was. Then I have to look at, okay, where are we going to go to test specifically? And I think you were having some joint issues, so I used the joint channel. And then you had an injury on your thumb, and that is the lymphatic channel, and so we tested that channel. And then we came up with these other things.
Well, by the way, my arthritis in my thumb that had popped up was gone almost immediately.
Yeah.
Like overnight. And I was like, oh my goodness, that seems to be working rather quickly.
Yes.
My knee felt better and everything.
Good. And sometimes even just from the testing alone, I had a case last summer. It was a young man that was referred to me. He had hurt his shoulder like 10 years ago and had struggled with it for all these years. And his significant other was a massage therapist. And finally, she talked him into coming in to see me. And so when we did the testing, and then I also did test him for some remedies that I knew I would have given him 10 years ago if he had come to me as a homeopath to help him with the shoulder injury. And the other thing the machine can do is actually make the remedy. So it makes it by lining up the protons, the neutrons, and the electrons, and it gives me the exact potency. So I don't even have to go to our pharmacy and ask them for the remedy, and I can get the exact signal that's in the person. Well, in his case, he needed strong, very strong remedies for the ligaments and the tendons and the even the inflammation. And so I put the potency on it. I ran it through some of the other channels, and that was at noon one day. At 4 o'clock, I got a text message from his significant other with a screenshot of his message to her saying, "I can't believe this, but, you know, the pain was gone," and he said, "I can tell I'm going to be able to get better."
And he hadn't even taken
the remedy.
Yeah.
But technically, he got the remedy during the testing.
Okay, I want to tell you, I hadn't taken the remedy yet either.
Yeah.
Because I was waiting until the morning to do it. And I was like, I think that just testing, because you tested in that same spot over and over, and I think it cleared the channel. Or whatever remedy it did it. It did it.
And that's probably exactly what happened. Now, I will tell you that people are different in their ability to see improvement. So people that do a lot of holistic things and are used to being aware of what their body might need, sometimes things like yours will change real quickly. Other times it will take a long time, and especially if it's a complicated chronic issue that we're dealing with, something that someone has had, you know, like a chronic, well, say asthma or something like that, that goes back even into childhood. And then it's a a long process to kind of unwind the body's presentation of all these symptoms and everything, and we come up with different remedies, and it takes a while for people to heal. And then once in a while, like I have one particular person I've worked with now for 5 years, and she had abdominal surgery where they actually removed most of her large intestine.
Oh.
And so she has some symptoms. She still actually has that symptom after 5 years, but she's getting better on many different levels. When there's that kind of a chronic change in your system where you've had a surgery like that, there's only a certain amount that we can do, but what happened is her acceptance of that surgery, plus she continues to gain fluid in her abdomen, and it has to be drained. So, you know, everybody's going to be different. The approach is going to be different. They'll heal at a different rate. And then there are people that come to me, and when they come back for a follow-up, they clearly, because I write down what you have, the symptoms that you have, so I can track them when you come back. And, you know, they'll come back and say, oh, the remedy didn't do anything. And then you start asking them questions about what was there. Like, oh, how about that bruise on your finger? Oh, yeah, I guess that was gone, like, right away, you know. And they didn't even notice it. And so the homeopath usually is pretty detailed in what we take down for symptoms and everything.
Well, I was so surprised because some of these things, on their face value, I didn't really understand what they meant. But then as you went down the rabbit hole on each one, all of a sudden the aha moments came. And I'm going to go to rock water specifically because when you said rock water, and it was for Infobach remedies? Something like that.
That's a Bach flower remedy.
Oh,
rock water is.
Okay.
Yeah, and that came up on your assessment there.
So when we looked up what rock water was, it's basically water running through a stream, picking up the minerals and everything from the rocks. And it's a cleansing thing. That's how water gets cleaned, by doing that. And I'm like, well, I make my own water at home.
That's right.
And I put my own minerals in it. And now I have shungite at the bottom of my tank, so when the water drips down, it's dripping on the shungite.
Right.
And I was so surprised. I'm like, yeah, I could relate with that 100%.
Right.
The one I didn't get quite sure of is the chamomile.
Right.
Because it's something that I've always felt like I was allergic to. But
you did mention that.
Yeah.
And that did come up for you. So then the question is it because, did that come up because that is the exact substance that, chamomile is a plant remedy, that will help balance out some of your experiences throughout your lifetime. And so we have to look at, is that what is needed right now? Because chamomile usually is something we think of that is calming. And, you know, people will drink chamomile tea before bedtime. We give it to babies when they're teething and they're irritable and stuff like that. So the question is that to help you now, or is that a signal from a very long time ago? And that's what people have to look at.
Well, I'm thinking that, you know, how allergies can change over time. Like my allergies to earth products, you know, green things, change a lot. The trees are different from season to season. And I'm thinking maybe I will give chamomile tea another chance to see if that might be something, or maybe it was something else and not the tea at the time. So we'll go with that. And another one that I thought was really hilarious is, where is it? Are
you thinking of the digitalis? Or
No,
are you thinking of the neroli?
No, I'm thinking of the vaccinations.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's one about the veterinary products.
Yes. Yeah. So once in a while that will come up, and so then my first question is you know, do you have a pet? And that kind of thing. But then we have to do, because the one that I think that came up for you was an arthritic formula for pets that has to do with arthritic conditions, as I recall.
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
see
I just so
here.
happen to work in a pet store.
And that's right. You work in the pet store where you're around that stuff.
And I'm around animals because people bring their dogs and cats, and you know,
Yes.
every Monday is nail trimming time, so I'm surrounded by animals. So I think that's funny. I don't know if that's just something that it picked up around me, or if it's. I don't feel like it's hurting me in any way.
Right.
But
And so, and then once again, that's where it gets very a little bit confusing. Is that, did that come up because of that? Or would that product, because it has to do with arthritis, help you with this issue in your, you know?
My
And even
arthritis.
though we think of it as one of the common things that we've been using, holistic people have been using in during COVID is ivermectin, which basically, although it is for humans as well, but it's been
yeah.
used, you know, traditionally with animals.
Well, yeah,
so-
but I mean, it does have awards for its use in humans.
And it's
and by the way,
right,
I took it all
antiviral.
through COVID.
Yeah, yeah,
And
so,
not the pace, not the horse pace, as people are like making fun of. Oh, you're taking
Right.
horse pace. You know.
Right.
No, I actually got it from before they made it illegal here. I got it from the pharmacy here.
right.
So, but I did get a prescription for it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
still
so
have it.
it's hard to say what comes up. It makes it a little bit more of a challenge, and then I have to kind of decide, are we going to choose one thing to give you, or are we going to do a couple of them together? I've got a couple of experiments going where, and the lady that actually trained me, she would test and maybe get 10 different things that would come up, substances that would come up, and then put a potency on them and put them all in one bottle.
Yeah.
And give them to people. So I have a couple people that I'm testing right now.
Oh.
One of them is a bulldog.
Oh.
And one is a human. And just to see, and it's a person I've worked with for a long time, so they're willing to do a little bit of the experimenting. You know, as a classically trained homeopath, we usually like to give one remedy at a time.
Right, right.
I do think that the difference with this process is that I have the exact signal that's in the person. So it's not that you're going to a health food store and you're picking up something for headaches and it's got 20 homeopathic remedies in there and different potencies. That can be a little bit
Preservatives
tricky.
and all the other food
Well,
coloring.
usually it's preserved with alcohol, but that can be a little bit tricky. So
okay.
let's say, for example, if you go in and when my son played football, he would have, and we went to a chiropractor, and the chiropractor would give him a product called Bone Repair, and it was full of homeopathic remedies. And every time he took Bone Repair, he would come up with a rash.
Oh.
Well, the reason he was coming up with a rash is that poison ivy was in there as a remedy, but he had been exposed to poison ivy and had the rash quite badly. So then it was like it proved it for him, or it pulled it up.
Yeah.
So that's where, and you know, that's where you really need to know what you're working with. So like when you take a product like that and something like that happens where you come up with a rash, it's okay, why am I coming up with this rash? You
Right.
know, is this something else that's getting out? Or so that's why I like the exact signal. And you look, I think we put signals on
You
almost
gave me two,
everything.
didn't you?
Yeah, I think I did. And then also I can check for the Ayurvedic diets. And I usually suggest that if people have not investigated that they can investigate that. So the one that came up for you, for example, is where you really shouldn't eat a whole lot of nuts, okay?
And I love nuts.
So then the question is, okay,
Doggone
so
it.
are we doing something in, you know, the diet? And I just tell people, try it for 30 days. The Indians have that system. The Tibetans have a system with diet. I'm not so sure about traditional Chinese medicine, but we even have a system here in the United States called the metabolic diet, where they actually check for the protein in your blood that give you a protein chase and
Oh.
a carbohydrate chase, and then you fill out a whole bunch of paperwork. And there used to be somebody here in town that did it, and I thought it was fabulous. Actually, it was put together by a dentist
Oh.
who graduated from the University of Minnesota. It's called the metabolic type diet, and so it would be similar to the Ayurvedic system,
Ah.
and just watching what you eat, because certain things are going to keep you in balance.
Yeah, like this safflower seed oil came up. Now, I don't know if
Yes.
that's a good oil or a bad oil, but it's a seed, but it's not a nut, but it's a seed oil,
Right.
which I've heard, we have to be very careful with the seed oils these days.
Right.
And I don't know how often it's incorporated into, our packaged goods these days.
Probably a lot.
Yeah, because it says it
And-
could be one of these 5 oils. We don't know which one.
And so when something like that comes up that I have questions about, I usually give people a list of things to research. Because in the time that we have together, it's pretty impossible to
Yeah.
go through all of these things. And so I just have to use my intuition and say, okay, we're going to start here. This makes sense to me. And I usually ask the person if that resonates with them.
Yeah.
Or some of the people that come to me that do intuitive more stuff, I'll just say, what are you thinking here?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I went home and I looked it up, and everything that it gave me was vague. It's an
Yeah.
oil that's used in products, not specifically which products. I kept trying to narrow it down, and it would not go any further than
Right.
that. So
And if we
I have to
looked at-
start being a package reader.
Yeah, and if we looked at, the omegas, if they're maybe there's, rather than the omega-3s, it's the 6s and the 9s that are in there, and then
Yeah.
that might be an issue.
Yep.
So it's a very broad assessment that comes up, and then we have to kind of choose where we're going to start. But
Right.
you obviously, and I think we saw you maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
So you've had some pretty good changes even in that time period.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I looked up neroli,
Yes.
and it only comes in I know this one says Young Living, but I used doTERRA, so I couldn't find it in doTERRA other than in a blend.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to look outside the box and see where I can find it. Maybe our friend David can help me find, because he's the oil guy, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
what else
Yeah.
we have in here? This
I forget which
the
one came up.
the
Yeah.
radiation EMFs. It was EMFs that came up. Therefore, the shungite. Doo-doo.
Yeah, and who knows sometimes if we're, people that have flown into the city and come and have testing right away, it's interesting what will come up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because they just got out of an airplane.
and they've been exposed to so much frequency.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of a task to decide how we're going to start. And it's, some people come to me and then they never come back. And I figure that either I've overwhelmed them or I've given them the information that they need to start with, and then some of them, maybe a year later, will call me and say, I think you really helped me. I really need to come back. And then some of them you never see. But I don't do a lot of tracking. When I was in the dental business, we had the recall system, and we make your appointment for 6 months down the road. And
Yeah.
that just fills up the time where you have no flexibility. So I kind of allow people, I know I look like I'm pretty, what do I want to say? Where I'm pretty conservative and I'm grounded and I'm, a taskmaster, and I am. That's my astrology, folks. And I taught dental hygiene for many years, and I taught a technical skill, so I had to be like that
Yeah,
in
yeah.
order for my students to pass their boards and everything. But when I took my first breath, Sagittarius was in the sky. So I do have that other part of
The
me.
fire?
I have the fire, I have the creativeness, I have the loving to be on stage and all of that kind of stuff, And
And
so,
the hunter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so
And basically, that's what you do. You're kind of hunting here.
yeah,
You know.
so I do allow myself to go down the rabbit hole when the spirit moves me, so to speak. So if we have time, I'll tell you about the citrine that I have.
Oh, okay. Tell me about that citrine.
Okay, so on Sunday, I went to my favorite little shop in South Minneapolis to buy an herb.
I know which one you're talking about.
You know which
It's on
one I'm
Grand
talking-
Avenue.
It's on Grand Avenue. And so I went in there and I was walking up to pay and I saw this citrine, several necklaces there, and I thought, oh, I don't wear this color other than I do wear gold jewelry. And of course, when you go, then I actually did Google it on my phone. I thought, what is this for? Well, it's actually one of the birthstones of Sagittarius.
Ah.
So I thought, okay, I need this stone. So I allowed myself to pick up the stone. And then I start to go in and say, okay, why was I attracted? Why did I see this stone, you know? And so I allow myself to do stuff like that. And it's about the solar plexus.
Same color.
Okay, and so, you know, I probably have the red and the orange really, because I do wear those colors, and then I have the green, the blue, the green, and the purple up here, and it's kind of like the yellow in the middle that I've left out. I have none of that in my wardrobe, you know? So I do allow myself to go with that intuition,
Yeah.
saying, okay, I need this. I'm going to start wearing it. And then you've given me the shungite, which I just put on today.
It's elite shungite.
Yes, it's elite shungite. So when I work with people, and it depends upon the person, people that I don't feel have that yet, have that intuit, you know, they've come to me because somebody said you need to go see Betty Jo. And so I'm able to be in my dental hygiene teacher role and, you know, do
Yeah.
my thing. And then
You can focus.
yeah, I can focus, and then there oftentimes will come an opening when we can talk about that. And I'll tell you, the opening usually comes with the Bach flower remedies.
Oh.
That's where,
Oh,
because
okay.
that description, usually people will pick up and say, oh yeah, that's me, the rock water.
Absolutely was me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this has been so amazing, and I'm, you know, I have to tell you, I had to giggle every time I look at this and think, oh my gosh, it was so spot on.
Yeah.
And which one? Do you remember which one it was we were talking about when you said something about a fear of heights, and then
Bridges.
brought up the bridges?
I don't remember which one it was, but
And I'm like, no, bridge nightmare girl here. Oh my God.
there were a lot of things that came out
I know.
with it.
I was
Yeah.
just like flabbergasted at every turn. So,
Yeah.
hey, people, go see Betty. We're rolling down again here, so I'm
Okay.
gonna. Yeah, but go see Betty.
It was great to see you again. It was a lot of fun.
This was really an important thing for me, and I feel like, you know, you gave me a remedy, and I'm taking it,
Yeah.
and my arthritis is feeling so much better.
Wonderful.
And you know, I can't thank you enough.
You are very welcome.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here again, and let's keep this rolling because, you know,
Okay.
this is a lot of good health that people
Yeah.
can glean a lot from. So
It is.
with that, I'm going to sign us out. Thanks for keeping it real with us here, Betty Jo. We'll see you again soon, my dear.
All right. Thank you.
Bye now.